Okay, here are the questions from the internet. Oh, follow-up question for you. What can be done to encourage more medical students to specialize in geriatrics? We talked about that, but we didn't say what could be done to encourage them.
Well, first thing that's happening is it's almost like medical students are the last people to know. Right now, primary care is becoming the most innovative areas, and places like geriatrics and palliative care is where we're finally asking people what their priorities are besides living longer, and asking those questions which we don't ask our parents, we don't ask our patients, and when we don't ask, those people end up with more suffering, more costs, and they actually die sooner because we give them all this kind of toxic therapy. So I think we're just on the cusp of waking up to the reality that those skills make a huge difference in people's lives, and we've been dismissive about that in medical training and as a public. So when the public wants it,
what percentage of healthcare spending goes to the last year of life?
So 25% of Medicare's spending is in the last year of life, and most of that is just in the last few months.
You'd think if one thing Americans could do, it would be find out how to go where the money is. Isn't that the one thing we're good at? I don't get why there isn't a bigger interest in this field.
Well, it's the death panel point you made, right? So what we fear is that this whole discussion, the idea that I'm going to talk to you, mom or dad, about what you want at the end of life is all about taking something away. And God forbid your doctor asks you about it. But here's an example of the kind of studies that are being done. Mass General Hospital, they took patients with end-stage lung cancer. This is a group of people who died on average in 11 months. Half of them, usual oncology care. The other half also saw a palliative care doctor who had a discussion about what you wanted as your priorities besides just living longer. Those people ended up choosing to stop their chemotherapy earlier, were more likely to die at home, got hospice sooner, and they lived 25% longer.
Wow.
This is the missed conversation, and we're afraid of it because we've been labeling death panels for the last few years, and we're finally now
No one makes it out of lung cancer, do they?
So they absolutely do. 60% do survive lung cancer, absolutely. But it's when you have lung cancer that has spread. And so lung cancer that has gone beyond the lung, we have not got a cure for that. So those are the people that have that, on average, 11-month survival.
All right.
Some do longer, but...
You're bringing the show down, Doc.
Yeah. Just kidding. That's my job.
If the economy continues to be robust, what kind of mandate will the Republicans run on in 2016? Like they need a mandate. They'll run on bullshit like they always do. I mean, what do you think they will run on? I mean, they really don't have a big issue, do they?
That it could be even better? I don't know. I mean, I think the funny thing is you look at the things that Republicans promised in the 2012 campaign, like Newt Gingrich said he'd get gas below $2.50 a gallon.
Right.
We had, Mitt Romney said he'd get unemployment below 6%, and we'd have 5% growth, was what Tim Pawlenty said, and all those things have happened. And if Mitt Romney had won the election, he'd be taking credit for all of them and saying it was all his policy agenda rather than just, sort of random economic events around the world. But I think, presidential elections really are sort of won and lost on the economy, and Republicans basically have had this one message that the economy's slow, there aren't jobs because of things Democrats are doing. And I think because they have no positive economic agenda to run on, you'll hear that again in 2016, just with less efficacy. I think, continued economic growth bodes well for the Democrats in the 2016 election. If we have another downturn, perhaps sparked by all the things that are wrong elsewhere in the world, in Europe and in China, then that will be good for the Republicans. They'll be able to say, see, the economy is still bad.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of foreign policy played out in this election, especially if the Democratic nominee happens to be the former Secretary of State. So you'll see a lot of foreign policy. You'll see the fact that, we'll probably still have troops in Iraq and Afghanistan by the end of the Obama administration. So you'll see a lot of that playing into the talking points that will be given.
Benghazi. She was, totally responsible for everything that happened there.
That's right.
I mean, obviously, they called her up and said, things under attack, and she was like, whatever. You know what? I'm having lesbian sex. Goodbye. That's what happened at Benghazi, as I recall. Kathryn, can you tell us something about your upcoming project? Yes. What is your next opus?
Well, it's still in a kind of, it's kind of too vague at the moment because we're still working on it, but it'll be a little provocative, a little bit
you're
noisy.
Attracted to real shit. You don't do the fluff.
I like it when it's contemporaneous. I want it to be like right now. I want it to be informational.
I'm guessing it's not a rom-com.
Sort of a drama of your show.
Would you ever do a comedy?
I would, actually.
You would?
Yeah, I would consider it.
Like, who would you want in it? Josh Gad, maybe?
I was actually gonna
I
ask.
put you in it.
Thank you.
He'd be good, right?
He'd be great.
It's an
Kathryn,
everyman.
let's talk after this. I feel like I may have some good ideas.
I feel like I may have 10% coming. Now that the Supreme Court has decided to rule on gay marriage in all 50 states, are we entering the final frontier in gay rights? Well, 36 states already have it. I mean, talk about leading from behind. I don't even try.
I think the final frontier in gay rights is inside people's homes and communities. I mean, you know, gay marriage is great for sort of, you know, affluent gays on the coasts who are, you know, I mean, it's good for everybody, but I think it's a key concern among people who sort of don't face a ton of discrimination in their daily lives. And the last thing is like dealing with official state discrimination. I think you have a lot of kids growing up in religious households in the South where it's, you know, they have official equality and that will percolate down into individual attitudes. But, you know, they're still facing discrimination from their families and their churches and people in their workplaces. And so I think it's going to be less of a policy issue, but there's still a lot of mind changing that has to be done that for a lot of ordinary people is actually really more important than the public.
Yeah, but I feel like every time we cross a threshold of final frontier status for an issue like abortion, we take 3 steps fucking backwards when, you know, somebody comes in and is like, well, you know what? About women's rights and about abortion and about gay rights, I feel like it's a Supreme Court away from overturning everything that has been accomplished.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a problem.
So you
isn't it?
think the Supreme Court could rule the bad way on this one? Because we're
I
all
think there's
kind
zero
of
chance.
You think there's zero chance?
I think this was game over when the court last year decided not to take up the cases from appellate courts that
Right.
had struck down state marriage bans. Because
I tend to agree, yeah.
this issue's moved only one way. Once you establish gay marriage in a state, you can't get
Right.
rid of it. Conservatives know that. That's why they were obsessed with getting those court decisions heard. But the courts have been almost unanimous, except for this one in the Sixth Circuit that the Supreme Court will hear that had upheld a gay marriage ban, saying, well, as Antonin Scalia said, the ruling in Windsor that struck down only the federal law on gay marriage also made very clear that you had to strike down the state laws. I would be really, really shocked if the Supreme Court upheld the ban.
What about the gay people out there who always liked it that they couldn't get married?
Well,
I've talked to many gay people who've said, you know, this was always the great thing about being gay, is that we couldn't get married.
they were joking, right?
I'm not joking.
Well, the Supreme Court's not going to force them to get married. It's gonna give them an option to get married.
But their boyfriend might. You know, that's the point. Is that before it was never an issue. They could blithely go through life not having to worry about somebody saying, when are we getting married? And now that's been taken away from them. What about their rights? Okay, does President Obama deserve to brag a bit in his upcoming State of the Union speech? Yes, but he won't. Right? He won't. It's just not in his genes.
He's been on fire lately. I love that every week he's got another new mandate.
He's a bit liberated by being a lame duck, right?
He's a bit liberated.
He flipped the script on lame duckism. He's like, you know what? You want a fucking lame duck? I'll show you lame.
and I tell you what, I think that's why there will be some bragging in this one, because what he needs now more than anything else is momentum.
Right.
He needs to show people, I am not a lame duck. Let me show you exactly what's going on in this country. Let me show you the momentum we have. And by the way, you ain't seen nothing yet, because we got 2 more years. So actually, I expect there will be quite a bit of bragging to let the country know that we just started.
All right. We will end on that positive note. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, panel.